Hello, this is Kathy Bruins. I'm with the Well Publishers, and I'm truly excited that I have the opportunity to introduce you to some of our authors. They have exciting stories to share with you, and I know you're going to enjoy it, and you'll probably learn something too. The first author I'm going to interview is Eric Jones, and he has written a play script entitled Tribes, a play in 2 acts. And I am so excited to talk to him about it. Welcome, Eric.
Well, hello, Kathy. How's everybody doing today?
Doing great. Thank you. And thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us and the viewers.
Well, thank you very much. It's good to be here.
You know, I love Tribes. And when I read it, I saw that it had a lot of action, yet a lot of mental, can I say, exercise to it. You know, people's relating to each other. Can you tell us, please, briefly what the story is about?
Okay. The story is set in the near future. It takes place in a prep school for girls in Nashville, and it's about these 4 different racially, ethnically, and spiritually diverse girls who are part of they're section leaders of this Glee club, and supposedly there was a terrorist attack that happened in Nashville from this underground group called the Void, where basically they are an anarchist group that don't believe in pretty much anything. And a Homeland Security investigator comes in to try to investigate that maybe one of the section leaders may be a member of this group. And through a lot of twists and turns, there's a lot of surprises. I don't want to give away the ending, but it's just like, right. But it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of humor. There's a lot of really thought-provoking things particularly about the social condition that's going on today. It deals with a lot of the defending of faith, and it's really a celebration of faith, really, in an aspect. So it's not which faith is better, just it's the importance that you have faith. That's the key. And also, it's really cool. It really has that incredible solidarity of sisterhood and girl power. Even though that I'm a man, I mean, I understand sisterhood very much because I have 2 wonderful sisters at home. So I mean, I kind of use them as kind of models for my story.
Oh, that's great! Wow, thank you. So I was going to ask you next how you came up with the idea.
Well, I thought it was an interesting story. I said, what if, because I think during this time we didn't know there's a lot of polar opposition with each other. I mean, I've been, if you look at the news, you see the things between Palestinians, and Israelis. You have the story between Protestants and Catholics in Northern Ireland. You have the stories between Black, African American evangelicals and white evangelicals, and why they can never come together. And that what would happen if all of their faiths were basically threatened by a group that's totally against everything? So will they unite, or will they divide themselves any further? So I just thought that, would that be interesting, that basically that all these the world's 3 largest religions, or the 4 largest religions, have to come together and have to combat this thing, or confront their own their spirituality, and also understanding their their humanity and their connection with each other.
Right. And of course that leads to a lot of struggles throughout the manuscript, and that's very interesting. You referenced that your sisters kind of were kind of the makings of a couple of characters.
Yeah, I think particularly with Rachel was like my youngest sister, Stephanie. She's always been kind of like a strong believer in Christ, strong believer, but also she's a woman who knows herself really, really well, and I was inspired by her, and also I was even also inspired by Lynn, because my sister Leah, when she was going to school, she was very much involved in journalism and stuff. So she was like, I was inspired by those characters. But there were other women too that I knew in my life that I known along the way too. I don't want to kind of like share with them because that I have to respect their privacy. But it was like but I respect their individuality. I like, I know I saw character traits in them, and I thought maybe I can just add that into the characters as well.
Yeah, it seemed to have worked beautifully. So how about the male parts? Are you any part in any
I
of the
would say
male
I would think of myself as Pastor Robbie. I like to think of as
Okay.
Pastor Robbie
Oh,
because I'm always a person that is like I kind of will go against the grain when it comes to my in my faith, because I don't consider myself as traditional, hardline. I definitely I'm a person who's very progressive in the world, but but when it comes to the gospel, it doesn't really change that much. But I relate, I empathize, I sympathize, and I think that that's what we need as as followers to be more empathetic to people that may not always agree with you all the time. So it's always important to do that. And I've always been a fan of Robbie. I like the fact that he's, and plus he loves music too, and I like music too, and I play music, so I'm that character as well. So I kind of relate to that as well.
Oh, that's fun to do as you're writing. I've done that before myself.
Mm-hmm.
And as you mentioned, it parallels many things that are happening today, and in a way that can be frightening, where, yeah, and well, not so much anymore. In America, we always felt so safe, but we have learned that it's not true anymore, and that there are just, the school shootings and
Yeah.
just all those things going on. And so, what is your message to the readers of the script, or the viewers, I should say?
Well, I think that in spite of how different we are, we're actually more alike than we think, that we want to believe. And also the fact that in spite of the fact that we have a commonality, that means that we basically have the ability to have a sense of empathy, a sense of peace amongst one another. That we can be able to not only just coexist, but basically to be able to transcend each other. And I feel like that in this day and age, I mean, we can actually sit down and actually dialogue. I mean, it's been a long time that we ever heard dialogue, and I think that the one thing that I can give out of this whole pandemic situation in the last 2.5 years is that it forced us to stop. I think the problem is that we were on a go nonstop consistently. I wrote this before the pandemic, and we were nonstop. And I thought about, well, what happened if the world just stopped when it comes to like a national terrorist attack, that there were like nonstop terrorist attacks and everything just stopped. So I thought, okay, what would happen if that actually happened? How would we relate? And I think that with the pandemic and everything that happened, or the post-pandemic, or how I don't know, we were totally out of it yet, but it really forced us to really like listen and pay attention to one another.
It did. I agree with you. And it's unfortunate that it takes those things for us to really talk.
Yeah.
But God will use what he will use.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of using, if anyone would like to use your script for a play, or what should they do?
Well, I think that they can always either contact me at Morningstar Media 2010 at gmail.com. I am very open to the fact of licensing. I think I'm really open to that. Just make sure that you're true to the characters. Just make sure that you don't try to well, I don't know if I could use that language. You have to keep the language as is, because that's the power of the piece. Respect the material. I always feel like, because I always follow the Dramatist Guild guidelines. But then go out there and have fun, and make sure that whether it's for a church or a community center or a theater group or community theater, if you're doing this work, that you see the responsibility of it. I encourage people to maybe have maybe like a talk back after the show is over. I encourage people to talk after it's over, because this will help more and more people to learn from one another and be able to have some some understanding.
Sure. Oh, I love that. Looking on your profile, I see you've been doing screen work and play scripts for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit about that and maybe about what new projects you're working on?
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, well, thank you. Well, actually, yes, I've been writing since 1996. I started mostly writing mostly for the church. I was a drama leader for my church for about 7 years. I just formed a drama ministry. We did full-length theater productions and church musicals, and that was a lot of fun. But then I kind of expanded from that. Started writing screenplays full time, and then I kind of got into musical theater for a while. And two of the notable works that I've done, I had a musical theater production. It was a 15-minute musical that I worked with my collaborating writing partner, Joshua Davis. We won the NAMTA 15-minute musical challenge for a musical called White Man's Burden. It's kind of like it's like a late night infomercial of Racism's greatest hits. So it talks about all the there's a lot of there's humor and satire in it, but it also makes you think about the current killings of unarmed black people, like George Floyd and Emmett Till and things like that. So we talk about that, but then also I've done some other musicals. I've had a musical called Liberators. It's about a nightly friendship between an African American and a Japanese American during World War II, and they helped in the liberation of Buchenwald. And that was a musical that we did at Chicago's Musical Theater Festival in 2018. I had a couple of screenplays that I wrote. I won a third place at the Beverly Hills Film Festival for Dreamland. It's kind of loosely based on my great grandmother's life when she first came to from Barbados to the United States, and talked about the identity, what it means to be Black. So this is the person who was passing. So it dealt with that during the turn of the century. But now I'm really excited about current works I'm doing right now. I'm doing a new musical called American Skin. We're also working with my writing partner Joshua. We're doing a story about people who have been killed because of the color of their skin, and it's a musical. But ironically, it is a satire, it's a comedy, but it makes you think. It's one of those musicals that are entertaining, but it makes you think. I'm also doing a straight out musical comedy called Fired the Musical, about a guy who makes a living firing people and winds up getting fired himself, and he gets an inheritance from his boss to give him. He has to give away $10 million to 10 people that he fired before his birthday, and he'll get the $100 million. But the problem is that nobody likes him. So it's kind of like, so it's one of those kind of stories. So it's very funny. I'm doing that. I am working currently on an upcoming project called have a short piece that we're probably going to work into a musical. Is going to be called Going Up, and it's a true story about Eugene Bullard. He was the first African-American fighter pilot ever in the United States. He actually fought in World War I. He was with the French, and he was yes, this man, nobody knows about him. He was a legendary pilot. He was a hero in France, but he had no recompense, no sense of knowledge back home. And he had a colorful life. This man did everything. He was a boxer. He owned a nightclub. He was a spy for the for the Allies. He hung out with like Charles de Gaulle, to even to people from the Nazis, just to basically get information from the Nazis to help the spies. And he wind up becoming an elevator operator for Rockefeller Center in the 1950s. Wow. So this guy was, I think of it as kind of like a Forrest Gump in reverse. Instead of him being a guy who's slow, he's like the smartest guy in the world, but nobody pays attention to him because he's Black. Wow. So I'm doing that story. We're doing that story. It's called Going Up.
Powerful. I'm sorry, I talked over you. What is it called?
No, you're fine. No, it's wonderful. I appreciate it. But we're real excited about that story. And I love it because there's a lot of humor to it as well. So he's so
awesome. So we are so excited for you. Again, congratulations for being an Oasis winner. You're one of the first ones to win that award, and we are just thrilled. Tribes is available on Amazon, and we will have the link on the show notes. So make sure you check it out because, like he said, it's going to make you think. And It's a good read. So highly recommend it. Eric, thank you so much for being here. It's been a pleasure to talk with you about your project and your upcoming project. I just wish you blessings on the work you're doing.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kathy. And thank you everybody for watching. And I hope you guys enjoyed the script. Please go ahead and don't forget to click on the link below. You'll be greatly entertained and greatly surprised by how wonderful the story is.